Why is it every time we have one great primetime game and then it just goes to absolute dog shit the next one? I don't know, and I don't think Arthur Blank is firing Raheem Morris anytime soon. Or Zach Robinson for that matter. And I also heard Kalani Sitake is almost on his way to Penn State. Yeah, that's not happening. Not a Crumble Cookies or the Mormon Church has anything to say about that. I do hope he stays because he has built something amazing around here. Or at least a Pro Bowl. But anyways, let's focus up on the NFL. Welcome back to Grizzly Talks Football. I'm the Grizz, and we got Week 13 NFL reactions from Sunday to Monday. Obviously, if you missed the Friday and Saturday episodes, I did Thursday and Friday NFL games already, along with some college football. But anyways, if you are enjoying this series so far, make sure you give this a big thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. Helps the channel a lot. Without further delay, let's get straight to it. So the first Sunday game, we had the Dolphins beating the New Orleans Saints 21-17. A lot closer than I thought it would be, but once again, Saints in the second half were fighting for their lives. I'll say Tyler Shough didn't have a horrible game. 26 of 38 for 239, 2 touchdowns and a pick. The rest of the game was pretty underwhelming, at least. And the touchdowns were scored by Devon Bailey and Chris Olave. How about Devon Bailey? His biggest game as a New Orleans Saint with 8 catches for 93 yards in the score. A 4-sack game for New Orleans defense, including 2 sacks from Cam Jordan and Kool-Aid with an interception. Yeah, it was just the offense put them in a hole that they just could not get out of in the second half. As for Miami, Tua was underwhelming again. When are we going to see Zach Wilson and Miami Dolphins? Actually starting a game, mind you. Just barely 50% of his passes were completed, 157 yards and an interception for Tua. He better thank the stars that Devon Achane is a beast. 134 rushing yards on 22 carries, 600 carry and a touchdown. 4-sack game for Miami as well. Forced fumble by Mika Fitzpatrick was recovered by Zach Sealer, and an interception by Rasul Douglas, and a 4-sack game including 1.5 from Chop Robinson. Nice! I'm glad Chop Robinson's doing well. Penn State player, and I thought he was going to be a beast. Oh, how about Georgia Tech player Zeke Biggers getting a half a sack as well? Riley Patterson scored over half of the points with 13, including 4 field goals. Wow. I know, we're better off without him though. Toilet Bowl matchup gives you a Toilet Bowl game. Next. Up next, we have the Houston Texans beating the Colts, inching closer to that division lead, 20-16. What a game for Houston's defense. And the rushing offense for that matter, as they scored twice. C.J. Stroud, 276 yards and interception. Wasn't bad, wasn't good. Nico Collins had himself a game with almost 100 receiving yards and a rushing touchdown. Sheldon Rankins had the only sack on Daniel Jones, but other than that, they actually did pretty well as far as, in the clutch. Daniel Jones actually did pretty well. I mean, I know it was 14-27, but 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Except the only reason why the Colts win games is when Jonathan Taylor goes off for like 100 plus yards. He only had 85 in this game. And Alec Pierce and Tyler Warren both had touchdowns in this game. Colts defense had themselves 2 sacks, an interception by Cam Bynum, and a forced fumble by Jermaine Pratt. It just wasn't enough. The fact that Jonathan Taylor just couldn't get going really screwed the Colts this time around again. And inexplicably, they have now lost 2 in a row. I swear, that division is almost as chaotic as the NFC South. Almost. And in typical Falcons fashion, we lose to the goddamn Jets of all teams, 27-24. When will this pain end? Seriously? How does Kirk Cousins play well with 21-33 for 244 yards and a touchdown? Bijan and Algier combined for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, and we still lose! By the way, Kyle Pitts had an absolute amazing game, 7 catches for 82 yards, definitely redeeming himself after the travesty he had last week. Well, the first part was our defense. I know we had 2 sacks, but we didn't get no turnovers on the Jets. By the way, James Pierce was definitely worth losing our first round pick. The second thing was our kicking. Zane Gonzalez missed a 50-yard kick, but made a 52-yarder. That missed kick was the big difference because instead of forcing overtime, Jets got the win. And the third reason, our special teams. Gave up an 83-yard return, but also Jamal Agnew fumbled a punt that actually got the Jets at the goal line. Out of the gate. We held another quarterback to under 200 yards. This time it was Tyrod Taylor with only 1 touchdown. That was the 8th in Adonai Mitchell of all people. And the rushing game had 2 touchdowns as well. Tyrod Taylor scored twice. 2 sacks for the defense as well. They didn't necessarily do that good either. But of course, Nick Folk had to be the hero. By the way, about that 83-yard kick return, yeah, Isaiah Williams, 83 yards. Our special teams Yikes. I think it's safe to say this season has been worse than 2020, and this game has been worse than the 28-3 Super Bowl. Next up, the 49ers dominated the Browns 26-8. Were we really expecting anything different? Brock Purdy had a pretty okay game, 16-29 and 168 yards, scored twice. Not the most productive game from McCaffrey, to be fair. Only 70 all-purpose yards and 1 rushing touchdown. Juwan Jennings had the 1 receiving touchdown. And Cleveland Farrell had a spectacular game with 2 sacks and 3 sacks total for the defense, including Georgia Tech player Keon White getting 1. But yeah, basically just the moral of the story is that the Browns offense sucks. I mean, seriously, besides Quinshon Judkins and the 1 touchdown pass Shedeur Sanders had to, I believe it was Harold Fannin, this offense was lifeless. I mean, yeah, when you prance on the field, you are going to have a game like this, Jerry Jeudy, when you have 4 targets, 3 catches for only 26 yards. Shout out to Harold Fannin, though. Bowling Green guy, he's a beast. One highlight was the sack by Myles Garrett. That was basically it. I will say Shedeur Sanders, he was okay in the first 2 games that he started, but not the greatest thing in the world. Of course, that game was overshadowed by this game where the Panthers upset the Rams 31-28. Rams, how do you let this happen? Of all teams to lose to, you let the Panthers beat you. And now the Panthers are 7-6. Very off day for Stafford. 2 touchdowns, 243 yards, 18-28, but threw 2 picks as well. Rushing game between Blake Corum and Kyron Williams combined for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, so that department was great. Devontae Adams had both touchdowns, and receiving leader was Xavier Smith. 3 catches, 82 yards, including a 51-yard dot from Stafford. Rams had 2 sacks and no turnovers. Just an off day for the defense. Bryce Young was very surgical in this one, as much as it hurts for me to say it. 200 yards, 15-20, 3 touchdowns. Rushing game was pretty solid as well. Moved the ball down the field. Chuba Hubbard even had to receive a touchdown along with Jalen Coker and Ted McMillan. By the way, that Ted McMillan touchdown to seal the win was literally on the 4th down and 1, I think. Rams defense was looking silly. 2 sacks for the defense on the Panthers as well, including 2 picks from Nick Scott and Mike Jackson. They even forced a fumble. Derrick Brown forced a fumble. That was recovered by DJ Wonnum. So 3 turnovers by the Rams offense. When you let the Panthers commit no turnovers and you commit 3, yeah, this thing's going to happen. Damn it, LA. Up next, another shocking outcome. Jaguars absolutely put BTA on the Titans 25-3. Rushing game didn't really do much, but hey, Trevor Lawrence had to step up, and he did. 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, 16-27, and Bayshore Tootin had the only rushing touchdown. Those 2 touchdowns went to Jacoby Myers, who's actually doing pretty well in Jacksonville, and Bretton Strange. 3 sacks total for the Jags defense, including 2 from Josh Hines-Allen and 2 forced fumbles by Ventrell Miller and Austin Johnson, 1 recovered by Ray Lane III. Defense as a whole was impressive, though. Just unfortunate that Cam Ward is really the only guy who could really produce on this offense. Although he didn't really have a great game here. At least Tony Pollard had himself a decent game again. Oh, we also saw some Xavier Restrepo action. Everything else, though, is just miserable for the Titans. Yeah, this game was expected. Next. Then we got the Cardinals coming up short against the Tampa Bay Bucks, 20-17. The one time I pick against the Bucks, they win. Why did my life have to be this way? For the Cardinals, Jacoby Brissett was actually pretty solid. 300 yards, 29-40, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Bam Knight had himself almost 100 all-purpose yards and a receiving touchdown along with Trey McBride. Player on the defense who stepped up, of course, was Josh Sweat. 2 sacks and a forced fumble. That was basically it. And Chad Brown still sucks. 1 of 2 for the field goals. That field goal that he missed was the game changer. Guess who's back and scored a touchdown? Bucky Irvin. Yeah, you thought I was going to say Baker Mayfield. He had threw a touchdown too, but yeah, Bucky Irvin was the big change here. Oh yeah, and that 1 touchdown pass Baker Mayfield threw, that was to Tristan Wirfs. Big man touchdown. Love to see it. Bucks forced 2 turnovers along with getting 2 sacks. Antoine Winfield got an interception. Logan Hall forced a fumble, which was recovered by Tyke Smith. Very nice job, defense. See, if you didn't have a clutch kicker like Chase McLaughlin, you guys would be losing to the division to the Panthers. Thanks, Todd Bowles. And now we move on to the 4 o'clock slate where the Seahawks shut out the Vikings in Sam Darnold's revenge game, 26-0. And the quarterback issues are still here. 4 interceptions for Max Brosmer. My goodness. This offense as a whole sucked. At least Dallas Turner looks good with 2 forced fumbles on 2 sacks, with Jalen Redmond recovered one of them. Sam Darnold literally didn't even have to do much, 128 yards, because Shat Charbonnet got another touchdown, stole another one from Kenneth Walker. Because the defense as a whole forced 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions, and 1 recovery. DeMarcus Lawrence and Boye Mafe forced fumbles. Ty Okada recovered one of them. Ernest Jones, 2 interceptions, 1 of which he returned for a touchdown. Other interceptions went to Kobe Bryant and Rick Woolen. Vikings better thanks to stars they had Dallas Turner because Jason Meyer had to kick 4 field goals in this one. Over half of the points scored from field goals. Or from Jason Myers, excuse me. Well, this was fun. Have fun with J.J. McCarthy, Vikings, because you really fumbled Sam Darnold away. Quite literally. Up next, the Bills dominate the Steelers 26-7. I'm not going to explain much. Josh Allen, pretty miserable game for him. 160 total yards, but did score twice through an interception. James Cook was moving the ball down the field with 144 yards. And so was Ray Davis, for that matter, with almost 7 yards a carry. And of course, the 1 touchdown went to Keon Coleman and not Khalil Shakir. Steelers defense forced 2 turnovers. Joey Bosa had a sack and a forced fumble. Christian Benver had an interception and fumble recovery. Really nice job. Quarterback play sucked ass in this one. Quarterback going for 10 of 24, 117 yards and an interception. Touchdown, only 1 came from Jalen Warren. The only highlight was basically the defense. 2 forced fumbles by Herbig and Yaya Black. Recovered by Patrick Queen, and of course the interception by Brandon Echols. But other than that, this defense absolutely sucked. Jeez, why are we in blowout city, man? Make it stop, please! Chargers beat the Raiders 31-14 in another blowout. Surprisingly, a solid game from Geno Smith. 18-23, 2 touchdowns, 165 yards, and interception. I still think this loss is his fault. And also the offensive line, because Gentry couldn't get anything. Had to get in the receiving game just to be productive, but wasn't doing too much of that either. Brock Bowers had both of the touchdown passes, by the way. Yeah, must be nice to have someone like him. Max Crosby did have 2 sacks and also an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty when Justin Herbert talked trash to in his face and he shoved him. Still shouldn't have shoved him, but they should have penalized Justin Herbert too for taunting right in his face. Blue Kelly got an interception on Herbert. Again, wasn't enough to prevent them from getting their asses handed to them. Justin Herbert had a pretty solid game as well, 15-20 for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception despite a glove in his left hand. Definitely a little concerning there. Rushing game were Kamani Vidal from Troy and Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo combined for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean the Buffalo Bulls, not to be confused with the Buffalo Bills. Quentin Johnston and Lamb McConkey, both of my Chargers wideouts, got touchdowns in this one. 4-sack game for the Chargers. Tuli Tupuola had 2 sacks. Interception by Tony Jefferson. Khalil Mack, forced fumble. Chargers basically dominated on both sides. Can this please stop? Okay, here we go. Here's the instant classic of Sunday Night Football. Broncos beats Commanders in overtime, 27-26, thanks to a Nick Bonito pass deflection. Bo Nix, high in yards, not so high in scoring, 321 yards, a touchdown and a pick. R.J. Harvey scored twice despite the run game not producing that greatly. And that 1 touchdown throw went to Cortland Sutton. But don't get me wrong, Evan Engram had a huge impact in that overtime. Defense stepped up when it needed to. By the way, Talanoa Funk 10 tackles, interception by Dre Greenlaw on the sideline after a tip. Nick Bonito with a sack and a forced fumble and the game-winning pass defense. Defense had to come in clutch in the overtime period, and on the last play, it did. Yeah, but what an effort from the Commanders, though, especially Marcus Mariota. 28-50 through 50 times? What? Threw for under 300 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Chris Rodriguez ran for a touchdown. Zach Ertz, 10 catches, 106 yards, but couldn't catch the most important passes. A recurring theme in this Washington game. Terry McLaurin caught the touchdown in overtime, and Traylon Burks caught the 1 touchdown regulation. It was a sick one-handed catch. Still not as good as OBJ's in 2014, but hey, you know what? I'll let it pass. Damn you, Traylon! The linebacker core of Frankie Louisville and Bob Wagner showed up in this one. Interception by Bobby, and Frankie with a sack and a forced fumble. If only they could just defend the touchdown or defend the end zone on the overtime period. That senior citizen defense just ain't built for OT. And finally, we had the most boring blowout of them all. 33-15, New England beats New York Giants. It was 30-7 at halftime. Literally nothing happened in the second half. I think the Giants have their gem in Jackson Dart. 139 yards, a touchdown. Also was pretty effective. Needs to start protecting himself, though. Stop taking risks, Jackson. Devin Singletary scored the only rushing touchdown. Darius Slayton scored the only receiving touchdown in the game. Defense sucked other than the fact they got 3 sacks, including one from Abdul Carter despite missing the first drive because, he was watching porn on his phone. Surprisingly, no Brian Burns sacks. And unfortunately for all of us, Drake May is 24-31 for 282 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's back to being an MVP candidate. God help us all. Those 2 touchdowns went to Keishawn Butte and Kyle Williams, and Stephon Diggs had 3 catches for 26 yards. He was only targeted 4 times. Besides the 1 touchdown in the first half and 1 touchdown in the second half, defense showed up in a big way. Harold Landry and Elijah Bunter both had sacks. Defense as a whole played outstanding. I understand the New England Patriots had a weak schedule, but can we please give them some credit? Maybe they are the best team in the NFL right now. We just don't want to believe it, but maybe they are. Because if you keep on winning the games you're supposed to against these weak opponents, aren't you doing everything right? That'll do it for the reactions, and that'll do it for this episode of Grizzly Talks Football. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you get this a big thumbs up. Hit the red subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single one of my videos. This is the Grizz signing off for now, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace, love, keep the Grizzly vibes with you at all times. Take care.